question. So again, regarding the traffic, we are fully cognizant of that being a major issue in the community. Our goal, I shouldn't say our goal, we're engaging transportation consultants, not only from a local perspective, but from a national perspective, with the goal of sitting down and having some comprehensive studies and analysis performed, taking that engagement and again, reaching out to the local regional transportation authorities and bringing everyone to the table to try to find solutions. As far as the park, the green space that we're developing within the development, that will be maintained by the developer. That will not be under the city's purview, based off of at least the intent as of right now, with the lease being our group would lease the entire parcel and be responsible for the upkeep of everything within the boundaries.
Awesome, thank you. Apologies for my technical difficulties. Thank you, Jason, for stepping in. Margaret, I see your hand up next.
Thank you, DK. I appreciate you being here, Shelby. And I must say the communication has been pretty wonderful in these Midway meetings. However, as you can see, with the election, it was a close call. So I think most important with this development moving forward in a positive manner is involving your local groups that surround Midway. I know these communications have, to me, only been, provided through the Midway Planning Group. And as you can see by attendance, not everybody attends these meetings. I would like to see moving forward involvement from Point Loma and Ocean Beach on this project, along with Midway, because those are your neighborhoods that need to love this project. They're on the fence right now, and as you can clearly see, there's a big disconnect on the pros on this project. And I'd like to see an improvement in that. I'd like to see us all working together to support this project, taking into consideration all the concerns from the community, the neighbors who we want to utilize this property and support the businesses that are going to go there. I want to see more of that. I represent the peninsula, I'm the representative there. So again, I'd like to connect with you as well in getting some of those pros out to the community and see how we can bridge that gap now that this, election is over, and understand, more details of bringing the communities together.
Yeah, Margaret, in complete agreement there, and would love to have a further dialogue with you on that. So DK, if you could connect us, that would be awesome. We're trying already. I can't say that everything's been a positive, happy conversation. We presented last Thursday to the Point Loma Assembly, about an hour-and-a-half presentation to that group. There was probably about 40 persons in attendance, expressing concerns, but also expressing excitement. Tomorrow evening, we're doing a virtual presentation to the Peninsula Planning Group. So we are trying to get out there and communicate. Would welcome any suggestions you have to deepen that communication and make it a little stronger. We're certainly directing people to, sign up on our website, and they can request presentations and meetings there. But it's also great to figure out other avenues to connect with folks. So we'd love to talk with you further if you have time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think, so Margaret is on that board of the Peninsula Group, so she'll see that presentation tomorrow evening. Thank you for that. Any additional questions for Shelby and the Midway Rising team before we kind of zoom out and talk big picture stuff? Okay. Hearing no other questions, Shelby, like I said, thanks for joining us today. Obviously, you're welcome to stay, welcome to participate, welcome to ask questions yourself. Personally, I'm comfortable saying that we'd love to have you at every one of our meetings, even if it is just as a fly on the wall, just so you're aware of what we're tracking and what we're sensitive to, what our priorities are. I think, to Margaret's point, that we are one big, large community, and I do think it's really important that, to the best of our ability, we stay in sync, right, all across the board. And so, by the way, if anyone is off mute and not asking a question, I'm just muting you. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm just trying to keep this conversation going. So please only come off mute if you have something to say. But yeah, like I said, thank you very much, Shelby, and we look forward to continuing this ongoing conversation.
Awesome, DK, thanks for having me. And yes, if you guys will have me back, I'll plan on being as many of these meetings as possible. And Margaret just saw your email address, so I'll shoot you an email shortly.
Appreciate it. Cool. Okay, so moving on, and this is open to the board, to the public, to anyone who's part of this meeting. Like I said, I wanted to kind of take a step back and start looking at 2023. You know, being realistic, there is still sort of pending litigation up against Measure C, and so we'll see where that lands. But ultimately, I don't think that we should, as a community group or as a planning group, stand still and wait for anything. I think there are a number of different challenges we have here in Midway alone. You know, last month we spent a lot of time talking about the intersections in and around the orchards. And I think those are, you know, that was a positive conversation, but ultimately, one of the things that we're looking forward to is finding ways to realize the vision of this community plan, right? It's been 4 years since we've updated this community plan, and I don't feel like I've seen very much change overall across this neighborhood. And so, you know, one of the ideas that I had suggested to the city of San Diego, and this is something that came just by virtue of reading through the community plan. You know, we talk a lot about infrastructure and the traffic and some of the different concerns brought on by not just the sports center development, but I think, you know, people are concerned about, you know, what does this height limit passing potentially mean? One of the funding mechanisms for the infrastructure deficiencies that are clearly depicted in the community plan is something called an enhanced infrastructure financing district. So that's basically it's a piece of legislation that passed a few years that enables various different geographic footprints to be, I mean, you basically opt into a program, right? And this is run by the city, by the county. It's not something that we can do by ourselves. But once you draw a geographic footprint, you're able to then basically leverage the funds that are created by the tax increment, the tax-based increment as it grows, right? One of the big things that we're aware of by virtue of Measure C passing is that property taxes will go up. And so basically from the moment that you set, like I said, this footprint for wherever this EIFD would be, the increment that then goes up, we are allowed to direct those funds directly to infrastructure challenges or projects that we have in that same district. So I know that's one thing that's high on my to-do list. Frankly, I've been asking the city for presentation at this group for the last 2 or 3 months, and they've not been able to make that manifest, but we will continue to ask and we continue to prompt. I know the county of San Diego is talking about potentially utilizing the same piece of legislation in EIFD to connect biking and pedestrian trails from Ocean Beach along the San Diego River all the way through to like Julian. And you know, they're not looking at our footprint here in Midway, but frankly, I don't know what's stopping them at the moment from potentially using our property tax increment for, you know, this entire San Diego River project. So, you know, I'm very well aware of the fact that we are on the cusp of a lot of change. And I want to try to position this group in this community in such a way that we are able to benefit as much as humanly possible from where we're going. So I'm curious to know anyone's thoughts or feedbacks if you have any reaction to the idea of us maybe taking a little bit of a more proactive step and looking at ways to address some of our wider, not just like I said for the sports unit, but across the entire Midway district, the planning area that is our jurisdiction. Curious to know if anyone has any thoughts on that. Jason, Judy, Rebecca, anybody?
No, I'd have to give it thought. It's not something I can respond to right now. But I will say this, you know what, anything that we can do to get the city moving in the right direction with allowing the manifestation, if you will, of our plan update that we got approved November 2018 would be helpful. Once a developer begins in earnest and has the plan, has their plan, and we have motion, it will be, we need movement. Okay, and one of the challenges all over San Diego that we're all aware of, but nobody really talks about, is that a lot of our leaders focus on an agenda very often that just does not do anything to increase, to help us, to help other communities with renovations. A lot of times they're focusing on issues that really don't fall so much into the pot of what needs to be done here. Everybody's jockeying for other positions and other motions, and they all want to have a say and make these decrees about this and that. But honestly, not that, it just, I would like to see us find a way, and I don't know what it looks like, but just talking here, you know, in response to what DK just said, I really feel like there must be better ways for us as a community and community group to put a fire under, light a fire, so to speak. Not really, okay, but you know, to get a spark going, because we've had a lot of stalling and stalemates, and you know, for lack of wanting to get into any kind of debate about how and why those things have held us back. They, you know, could they be intentional? Could they be part of a strategy? I'm not going to give any more of my own personal opinion, but I'm just want to think about, I think we should be thinking about ways to advance our community plan update before it needs to be updated again. Because the plan is, for people who don't understand, that plan is going to be altered. It's going to be altered by the city to meet their needs as we go through. Some of it will be able to adjust and have impact and influence, but some of it we're not. So I think that we need to really find ways to bring more people from the community, which is difficult here because obviously we're a very unique district in that we are commercial and residential, light industrial. You know, we don't have the big residential support that other communities do. And a lot of our business owners are stressed and maxed to you know, as much as they can do anyway, just to keep their businesses going. And we have so many issues here that common to the rest of the city and some not common. But I think you know, as DK brought that up, I think it was a good point, you know, good question, DK, because maybe we could all start giving that thought in the next month before we reconvene in January with ideas. What, you know, where do we go? How do we do this? What can we do that will actually facilitate advancing this development? The last thing I know I personally want to see after all this time is for the development process to be stalled again. And I think we're going to run into some issues with environmental, with the density. You know, I think you know, if you really look at that plan update, what's coming, what the city and the state want to do. At some point, you can't put you know, there's only so much you can do on a 48-acre site. And then we have the NAV, you know, we can influence that, but let's face it, the Navy can do what they want. It's federal land. So I think it's going to be challenging in different ways for us. And I don't know the answer. You know, my mind is kind of a flurry. So I've spoken too much, but to say, I really do think that DK's right. We need to start thinking about ways to influence. And, you know, I don't want to see any more taxation put on our business owners down here. It's already hard enough for them to keep businesses here. I can't tell you how many businesses tried to open right before and during COVID, and they're gone because it's very difficult until that development happens. When people see that development happening, they're going to invest. They're going to invest in property, they're going to invest in businesses, and it's already difficult to get those things done because of the extensive requirements for environmental and permitting, you know. So let's try to do what we can to support businesses coming into the area. There's not much more room for residential except on that plot right there. So I think we need to try to get more business owners or, you know, landowners, whoever, involved too. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. That's a very well made point. Tom, I see you're back. Is your microphone fixed this time? Oh, no, still can't hear you. Another time. Fair enough. Another time. Thank you, Tom. Tom is the chair of the Uptown Planners Committee, I believe, still. Tom, correct? Yeah. So yeah, no, and we know we go back a few years. Tom's good people, and I welcome you to. I think this might be the first meeting you've been at, Tom. So good to see you. Sorry your mic's not working, but I'm glad that you're here and happy to continue a conversation. Right, you're our neighbor to the other side. That being said, Jason, Karen, any other sort of board comments, questions, priorities? Because my intent of having this discussion today is so that we come back in January with everyone sort of ready with like a list of here's what I want to look at, here's what I want to spend time on, here's some of the capital projects that are on my priority list. That's what I'd like to like hit the ground running with in January. And so kind of just want to use, you know, the next few minutes still to just to have a discussion and get any ideas going. But yeah, Margaret, I see your hand.
Well, just from the Peninsula community standpoint, you know that we have like 8 subcommittees and we have been super successful the last 2 years, really just pushing the buttons of the city and getting stuff done. I'm happy to sit here today and saying that if we didn't have those committees, those side committees to, you know, really send some stern letters to the city, I don't think we would get half the stuff done, just because, you know, we have how many little neighborhoods in San Diego and everyone's got issues. So I would really encourage as a you know, a planning board to do as much as you can with submitting as much pressure and letters as you can representing Midway. I mean, I can definitely see that Midway needs some TLC and just stay on top of it, regardless of what the city tells you. You go ahead and go above and beyond and plan accordingly as a group.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I think that we also, I mean, it's funny, like there's no one here today from any of our government offices, but broadly speaking, I do feel like we have great access to the district too, and even to the mayor's office to a certain extent, right? One of the, I guess, positives that comes from being this community that has been the focus of so much attention is that we're, I think, distinctly aware of the fact that it's a priority of the mayor's office to see this Midway redevelopment become successful, right? Like, I'm not trying to get into politics or anything like that, but just the analysis is clear, right? This is a priority for them. And so we have the opportunity, I think, to leverage our position as the planning group to make sure that that our priorities are seen in their priorities. So yeah, Judy, I see your hand.
Yeah, to speak to that point of nobody's here from the city groups. You know, when I first joined our planning board back in March of 2016, they came to every meeting, and we had pretty in-depth reports. I know Jason or Kathy could speak really to that. I see Gil Kennedy here. I'm not sure if it's the same Gil Kennedy that was on the board when I joined, but if that is you, hey Gil. But is it you?
Yeah, it is.
You tried to sneak in there.
Yeah.
Somebody. Anyway, we had participation by these government agencies, and I'm not calling anybody out because they're not here to call out conveniently, but I'm going to tell you, I kind of get tired of hearing the stuff, that they tell us that I just heard on the radio yesterday. That maybe, and I think that goes back to the previous question that DK asked, and the question is that, I've just seen the more we've been stalled, again, not saying it's intentional, make your own decision. The more we've been delayed, let me use that word, delayed, in having our plan update advanced since November of 2018, getting it ratified by the city council at the second ratification, second vote. It seems like they're less and less participatory in our meeting. Now, you're right, DK, is that, it is a priority of theirs, but we have to remember the city, this is just, if you don't know this, everybody should know this, okay? Everybody has an agenda, right? Personal agenda, groups agenda, our community agenda is a little bit different than Point Loma and Peninsula. Everybody's got an agenda. The city also has an agenda, and some of it's public and some of it's not. And this is how it works in government. So we have to really, I think that might be to Margaret's point about how they push and push. It's very difficult for us to have 12 committees because we're all pretty much, you know, that we have a handful of people. Very few of us are, it's even a little bit difficult to get here at 3 o'clock when you run a business and own a business, then you're working. We're all working people. But we need to look at how we can, as DK was, you know, pointing us, let's give thought to, you know, what are those issues that are most, you know, kind of priority, I mean, they're all relevant, but maybe, you know, the priority, and let's try to get more participation by our government representatives here, because they really, with few, you know, there's a few exceptions, like Makana, he just joined us, you know, you can't always be here, but some of these groups, some of these departments that have committed to us to be here and give, you know, be a liaison, never show up. So I would like to see that changed. I can tell you that would be something, a priority. Let's you know, let's address that, and let's get more participation and liaison and communication, because we're going to need all of their help to make sure that we don't get stalled out and delayed. And there's so many aspects to that. So many things can delay this, you know, and we're all hoping for Measure C to, you know, get through there so we can get started. But you know, I think it's disappointing that we're not given enough priority by these different departments to even show up anymore, you know?
No, yeah, thank you. I see, excuse me, Karen, your hand is up.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Judy is saying. And it seems like when we do have these government representatives that do show up, they're really just kind of talking at us. They're not asking for a lot of feedback. They're not asking, I mean, there's the obligatory, you know, if you need something, here's my contact info. But like you're saying, I do think we need to get organized, because when they do show up, we don't really present them with anything. We don't, you know, come across as saying, this is something we're talking about. This is something we need. We, you know, went back to 2000, I think Judy said 18, and these things aren't happening. So I do think that falls in line with what you're saying, but also what Judy's saying is they're not showing up. And when they do show up, they just kind of talk at us and leave. And I don't mean any offense by that, but it's kind of like they give us a report and then they're out.
Yeah, no, it goes both ways. I think it's a two-way street, and that's a very good point. I think to the extent that we can look in the mirror and say, okay, what can we do, right? To your point, to be more proactive, to maybe, you know, present them with a presentation or a question, or to ask them ahead of it. Oftentimes I will get ahead of it, and like when I'm drafting a meeting agenda, like I'll reach out to Makana or whoever and say, here's what I'm thinking of. Can you help us with this? Like I'd love to get an update from Makana on this IFD thing that I mentioned. But a lot of times, yeah, to your point, when they do come, they give a report and then no one asks a question, right? And I feel like it's up to me to ask all the questions, right? And at least ask everyone at least one question. And
Yeah.
so what, you know, there's it goes both ways, but I take both of your points very well.
And the other thing I wanted to add is we talk about how slow the city moves and stuff. And I do think we need to keep in mind that when they want to, and the sports arena is probably going to be one of those things they're going to want to, they can move pretty quick. Snapdragon was built in 2 years. That, to me, that's remarkably fast for that kind of a development. It may not be as complex or as complicated, but the city did get it done pretty quick. So if we're not on top of things, it might pass us by.
True. Yeah. Knowing how things come together is super important. I know Snapdragon, that was a weird one because that was voted on in November 2018. And the language of the ballot measure is actually what cleared that parcel to basically be streamlined, right? Because that guaranteed a sale of that property from the city to the state of California, the state CSU system, and they've got their own CEQA streamlining. And so, yeah, that was freakishly fast. That's atypical. But I think even us knowing as a board what different mechanisms, what levers of government policy legislation we're able to leverage ourselves, that's an important thing for us to, like I said, just focus on, think about, and like, you know, maybe even like ask for, right? Miki was here from Assemblymember Ward's office, and they're sort of in the quiet time in between legislative sessions right now. So if we wanted to be real aggressive, real proactive, we could come up with the state bill, right? And have the assembly member sponsor that, if that's something of interest to us, right? That could either help streamline or, you know, guarantee funds or whatever, right? We can get creative. So that's kind of just what I wanted to hope that we could instigate here. Tom, I think it's going to work this time. I think you're on the phone.
Okay, wow, that would be excellent.
Problem solving. Welcome.
Thank you. So I was involved in the opposition to Measure C. It appears that Measure C is going to pass, so I want to say congratulations. I think there are many challenges to go along with that. Several communities voted, no. The majority voted no, including people who live in Midway-Pacific Highway. We didn't campaign in Midway-Pacific Highway area in particular. So if the residents there don't go along with Measure C, I would just say that there's more work to bring those people in and get them involved in what you want to do. I'll point out there's many challenges with Measure C. One is it doesn't do what it says it will do. So I got the brochures in the mail, adding affordable units, adding park space. Well, no, Measure C only takes away the height limit. The other misleading part is that Measure C would be primarily about the sports arena. Well, no, Measure C affects, as you know, the entire Midway-Pacific Highway community, 1,324 acres. And I don't think anyone knows the ramifications of that. Some people would say that it basically blows the lid off an entire community's height limit. I think there's a question whether Midway Rising is qualified. I think their plans need to be looked at carefully. Perhaps the one thing that sticks in my mind the most is the need for parks and open space. So although some people see, anyone who doesn't live in Midway interfering, I don't feel that we're interfering. Midway-Pacific Highway community is a crossroads. It's an entrance to the coastal communities. It's low-lying, it has cool breezes, it has fresh air. It's a perfect place for a regional park or a city park, and I'm not sure how we're going to get that. Midway Rising says they're going to put in 20 acres. It appears to me that includes one large plaza, and I think it also includes space between buildings. So I would really like to urge this board to look carefully at the park and open space area. Space between buildings cannot be counted as a park. If you have 10,000 new residents living on the sports arena site, they're going to need a soccer field, a baseball field. They're going to need an off-leash dog park. DK, you've said to me you want Midway to be a real community, and I think people support that. But a real community will have children, it'll have adults who want to play ball, and it clearly will have a lot of pets. So I just want to congratulate the board in the direction you're moving and urge you to really make the sports arena site a place where residents feel is home. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I don't want this in any way, shape, or form to turn into a forum for debate. I think you and I have always conducted ourselves respectfully towards each other, despite the fact that we might not see eye to eye on all the things. With regard to Measure C, like I said, we obviously, I think it's safe to say this board is supportive of it, but I don't think any of us were really truly involved in the campaign this cycle, myself included, outside of the odd media interview. So, I hear what you're saying with regards to the mailers, but I think there also needs to be some level of realism with respect to what will happen, what we are looking to incentivize to cultivate by virtue of removing this height limit, right? Like I said, I'm not the campaign manager. I didn't mail those things out. I'm not standing by anything that's in that campaign, but what I do stand by, it was the effort from this board in the first place to help the city expand its focus from just the sports arena site to the entirety of the Midway-Pacific Highway community planning area 2 years ago when Measure E first started. So, like I said, very much appreciate your comments. We're talking about, like I said, an ad hoc committee or some sort of specialist committee of this group to really dig into the nooks and crannies of this Midway Rising plan. Like, yes, we enjoy being cordial and sort of having these lines of communication open with Shelby and his team. But at the end of the day, their project is in our backyard, right? And respectfully, it's imperative that our backyard is maintained to our standard. And so that's what I'm looking to do as chair of this group, and what I would hope my fellow board members and wider community members are also up for. Measure C passing it's big, but honestly, it really is just one more step on a very long journey to seeing this community revitalized. So, like I said, comments well received. Thank you very much, Tom. Jude, I think maybe last time, and then
yeah. I just want to say, Tom, thank you so much for your comments. Okay, we are all at some point dazed and confused by the way the measures appear on the ballot, the descriptions, the way some campaigns are held, what standards. That's an issue I wish would be fixed by the city and the state. I don't know, but I also encourage you and other people from other communities around us to start coming to the meetings that we have, to get involved, because I got to tell you, when I first got on the board and was involved in that plan update and thinking about it, and then when the whole Measure C thing came up, in my gut, I really opposed it for a lot of the same reasons you did in my heart. But I had a conversation after meeting with several other people. I met one of it was a developer not involved in any of what's happened in the past few years, but somebody else. And he said, if a developer cannot increase the height of that arena, you're going to have a really hard time getting developers to come in and bid on that parcel other than housing. And personally, for me, I don't want to see that plot developed out as probably the city would like to see it, like just massive high-rise housing. I will get out protests on that every single day of my life against that. But I want to see an entertainment and or sports venue there, a modest one. But developers, they expressed very, off the record, and again, nobody that was involved in any of these recent, recent things, because I would have recused myself. But just having conversation and learning about how those developers, how they would be looking at that if that Measure C doesn't pass, we could possibly lose, we would most likely lose a developer wanting to bid and develop that property with anything other than commercial retail and high-rise housing. So that's really, for me and many, many people down here in our community where I live, retirees, a lot of them, seniors still working and stuff. We want to see a sport, we want to see a new, quote unquote, arena, a sports venue. So that's why a lot of people did support it. A lot of people here also told me they wouldn't support it for the same reason. And, it's a real debate, but if that doesn't hold and it gets passed, we may see that completely go in a different direction where there is no entertainment venue. There might be of course there'll be some kind of Greenland Park, but that could end up being high density, low income housing, and because the city, we're so desperate for it. And honestly, of course we need housing here, but I don't want it to just be 48 acres of high rise with retail at the bottom of it, and I don't think anybody wants to see it. But I can tell you, if it passes and other communities that are around us start wrestling with height issues and stuff, I will come and support support you against it. Personally, I don't know about other people. I'm speaking for myself, because I don't want to see San Diego turn into Miami Beach. There's a lot of things that could happen in all different of our coastal areas that would be very disappointing, to take away the flavor of what San Diego is. And so I will be right there. I will come and I will help you, against any of that. And I think that's the big fear that people have voiced, is that if it happens in Midway, it could happen, along the beach fronts, it can happen here. So I think that fear can be addressed, but thank you so much for coming and voicing, and please keep coming back and be a part of it. Ask people in your community, tell them that we need them to pay attention, because as this develops, there's no guarantee of what's going to happen with that. There's no guarantee yet. So we all need to be very vigilant and speak up So, you know, and as a group, we come together and sometimes we support things I'm not 100% with, but same for others, but we work together as a group to do the best for the community with what input we get. So the more input we get, the better decisions we can make, as you know, to feed back into the city and the county and the state.
So on and so forth. Yeah. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Judy. Usually I like to have the last word, but I'll give it to you. I think that was a very nice way to close off this conversation. Unless anyone else has anything that we have not yet discussed that they'd like to talk about in 2023 and beyond, I think we can go ahead and close discussion on this item. I did see Makana come in from the District 2 office. Makana, welcome. Did you have an update for us? You came in like right on time. We were slandering your name. And
I was gathering what the topic was pretty quickly there.
yeah.
Some updates. I mean, this is actually my last meeting with the District 2 office. I'm going to be transitioning over to be Kent Lee's Deputy Chief of Staff. So it's a move forward in my career that I couldn't turn down, as much as I'm going to miss Midway. And I mean that. I've had Midway through 3 jobs now, and it feels like my baby in a way. So I will miss you all. You're in good hands with DK, obviously you all know that. But I am going to be trying to close out the budget process, at least the next step of it. The updated budget priority memo isn't due until January 13th, but I'm going to try to leave them in good shape. So if there's anything that you didn't see included in that initial one, these revisions, like I said, I'm going to be buttoning that up. So make sure you get those suggestions to me. I think the 10th is my official last day, and inauguration is the 12th. So just, you know, soon. If there's anything that wasn't in there that you think should have been in there, I'd welcome to hear about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I got that text from you earlier today, and my heart went this way and this way at the same time. Happy for you and your career and everything, and I'm sure we'll still be in touch, but obviously disappointed to lose you as our representative here in Midway. I think one of the things that we were touching on right before you walked in as well is just broadly speaking what we as a community planning group can do going further forward. We kind of touched on where Measure C is. We touched on where Dr. Jen's office is. Obviously, there will be continuity through that District 2 office, but yeah, we're looking forward to meeting our new representative. And then ultimately, yeah, I think one of the things we want to, I know that I want to at least bring in front of this group in January is our capital improvement prioritization list. And so that obviously I think will bleed past when your last day is. But we are sort of thinking in that direction currently. So we know where to find it. I don't think your phone number is changing. If it is, make sure you send me the new one.
Yeah, I think my email will stay the same. I might have a new desk line, but yeah, but my cell phone will be the same. You have it. Okay,
cool. So yeah.
And then the other thing I just wanted to kind of plant the seed in your brain too is that I'm sure most of you are aware, if not all of you, that Old Town's going to be in the new Council District 2. And so I've already met with those folks over the years, and then especially lately in preparation of taking over that area. And there's a lot of spillover issues. So I think some coalition building between Midway and Old Town could go a long way. Those folks are pretty organized, and like I got like a 5-page document 2 months ago about what all their primary concerns are from that group, even before we're attending those meetings. So it might be good to link up with those folks. As far as community planning groups go, I count your group and their group as one of the ones that are productive, level-headed, fair, critical, all, you know, the good things. So yeah.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, if you want to send that document over, I'm happy to look at it and socialize it with the group as well. But in general, that's a good piece of advice. I did have one more question. We've been talking about this EIFD thing. I know there's a lot of moving parts with the mayor's office and the real estate assets department, but do you have any update or any sort of insight into how that, even just like how the process really comes into play?
Well, so I sent you the item where they did one around the River Valley. It's not exactly the same, but that one cut through 4 council districts. So I can't imagine ours would be more complicated than that to figure out how to begin implementation on. So I need to push on Kohta to get that ball rolling. You know, I'll bump him again now that he's back.
Okay. Yeah, anything you can do in that direction, I think would be appreciated. That's one of the real mechanisms that we have at our disposal to, you know, adequately capitalize at least our funds and then ultimately start addressing some of these bigger issues when it comes to traffic and
Yeah, and getting ahead of the Midway Rising stuff too, having that more established so that it can be incorporated into that. It's important.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really the window I don't want to miss. So yeah, thank you. Anything you can do there would be appreciated.
Yep. I'm going to be handing a Midway packet before I leave with, all the stuff around the orchard too, and what's happened, what's still waiting to happen, promises that were made, and there's this timeline. So I'm not leaving you high and dry.
Fair enough. I see Judy's hand up. That's a new one from Makana, right? Or no, hand down. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right. Well, that's the extent of my questions. If anyone else has anything else from Makana, now's the time.
Thanks, Makana.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Although
you.
I do want to say
Makana.
thank you. Thank you.
And I still live on San Diego and Pringle, basically. So maybe I'll be showing up to these as a citizen. It's technically D3, but I spend most of my time in Midway, not running errands up the hill. But
You would always be welcome.
Yeah,
thanks.
we have a lovely nursery. It's called Walter.
I know. I was there on Sunday.
There we go. That's what I like to hear.
I bought 1,000 ladybugs.
There we go. Good man. Cool. Awesome.
right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Yeah, let's keep this meeting going. I know we do have an action item, and then we have a couple other things to tie off. So Kimberly, thank you so much for your patience. I know you've been here since we started at 3 p.m. You have a presentation for us. I will make you a co-host now, and you should be able to share your screen and walk us through what you have for us. And if not, you can let me know, and maybe I think you sent me a present. There we go.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, good to go.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Chair DK and board members for having us here today. My name is Kim Cantrud and I am here representing 1215 West Nutmeg Street CUP. Also here with me today is applicant Aaron Magana and architect Alan Austin here to ask for questions at the end. So our project is located at 1215 West Nutmeg Street, just west of the airport, in between the airport and the railroad tracks. It's a property on 3 APNs. We're proposing a remodel of an interior of 6,200 square feet existing commercial building that we're going to be using as divvied out into a cannabis outlet and associated storage for basically only tenant improvements on the inside, but we are going through for the cannabis outlet CUP. We're proposing a cleanup of the space that's existing on there, and then we are going to be doing 10 parking spaces with bicycle and motorcycle. With our CUP approval, there will be improvements to the right-of-way, accessibility, and we're adding the parking area for our future guests. Exterior improvements also will include new landscaping. We're planting 4 trees, and then improved lighting for the community or for the region. Here's the vicinity map and aerial of our location. You can see here where it's located just north of Laurel Street, approximately on the corners of Nutmeg and California. It's existing this Quonset building with associated CMU block addition, and then all of these other accessory buildings on site that will be removed. They're temporary and unpermitted. So we're going to clean up and remove those and then return the site to parking for the project. Here's an aerial view of what is existing on site. Here is a proposed rendering that we have in the works that we are working through with the staff right now to get our approvals through. This is what we envision of the site to be. Here is the site plan where it shows the 10 parking spaces. You can see the 4 trees that we're going to be planting. The buildings to remain, the existing Quonset hut and attached brick construction that will be the storage. The next plan here shows the floor plan. So you can see the left side is the north. So that's the entrance and the storefront. And then the associated on the right will be our storage facility. So the site is identified as urban industrial through the Midway Community Plan. We are zoned industrial small scale zone, so IS11. Cannabis outlets are allowed in both this zone and the community plan. This will supply jobs, encourage
Hey,
facility.
Kim, I'm so sorry. I hate to interrupt, but your microphone is kind of patching in and out. Do you think maybe you
Oh,
can
no.
adjust or tweak, or if there's like a piece of paper covering it or something?
Can you guys hear me better now? Maybe I
Yeah.
could just speak up. Okay,
Yeah.
I apologize.
Thank you.
So,
worries.
yes,
Carry on, sorry.
I will speak up louder. It might have just been trailing off. So we are consistent with industrial small scale zoning of IS11. This is where cannabis outlets are approved to be by the city in the general plan to be allowed. The Kettner District Policy LU 4.76 encourages visitor commercial uses and encouraging location for the Middletown Trolley Station. And this is actually 0.25 miles away from the station. So we're going to be improving walkability and the street for the connectivity to our Middletown Trolley Station, excuse me. The project complies with the San Diego Municipal Code and our base, and they're allowed in this area, as I just discussed. So in our summary, our project will not adversely affect the community plan's land use designation. This is not detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. We comply with the land development code, are requesting no deviations. Our investment in the community and this site will activate the pedestrian streetscape, encourage residents or visitors to use the trolley station within a 0.25 walkability, and hopefully encourage more investment within the Kettner district of the Midway community. And that our proposed use is appropriate at this location. We're currently receiving second review comments from staff, so we're working through the CUP process right now. And I will leave you guys with another rendering, the rendering of what we're proposing on the site. And we are here for questions and would love to talk through this project with you guys. And we would really appreciate your support moving forward with this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Questions, comments from the board? Kim, I'll just say thanks for sending these materials out ahead of time. I was able to include them with the agenda. That's something I'm also just trying to do in general for our board and for the folks who pay attention. You know, we're going to talk about things. It's nice if we have a few minutes at least to review the material. So thank you, Kim, for sending these early. It enabled me to then circulate them to the board.
Absolutely.
But yeah, if anyone has questions, comments.
My only quick question. Oh, go ahead, Karen.
I'm just looking at the map. So do you actually enter off Kettner, but your address is on Nutmeg?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I was confused about how the location worked. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nutmeg's actually a dead end. So yeah, it's all through California Street.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to bring up. It's like Palm Street or something there, and then you head south on California Street. It's one way along the tracks.
Yeah.
For access.
Kim, I guess one more question for you. So in this overall process, you know, we've touched on redistricting and we understand there's 4 permits per district. I think there might have been a public comment
to Nutmeg.
Yeah, that's skirted a little bit around the edge of kind of, you know, some of the land development code updates that are being passed. So can you talk to us just a little bit about what this project might look like going forward? Any sort of adversity you're anticipating or currently dealing with? Any sort of litigation or legislation that you're anticipating having to deal with?
I know that, yeah, 2 have opened up with the redistricting. There are currently 3 that we're aware of in the city going for those. It's a first come, first served process. So we are currently in what we believe is position 3. So this may not come to fruition if the other 2 process ahead of us. That's how the process works right now. I don't know anything to speak on potential litigation that's going forward with this. I have not heard, and I'm not.
Your mic's kind of cutting in and out, but I caught most of that. And then just my own other follow-up is there anyone sort of organizing in opposition of this or anything like that that we should be aware of?
Not to my knowledge. I do not know of any opposition that we have.
Okay, thank you. Evan, I see your hand.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. As an architect, I really appreciate that you are investing in existing buildings and infrastructure. I think it's a great sustainability statement, and you know, there's a great carbon story to be told about the reuse of these buildings and making them places people want to be again. So thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very nice. Judy, is that a new hand?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you for the presentation and for getting us materials beforehand. I didn't have a lot of time, but at least we had a little time. Could you please put the, Kimberly, could you put the drawing back up that shows the streets where California, I think, I understood it correctly when Jason brought up, because California is one way there. I just, yeah, so California's, okay, so they're one way.
One way southwest, correct? Or southeast, sorry.
So, okay.
Also,
Okay.
Kim, can you confirm so that Nutmeg, yeah, it's just like a little pocket there. Is that,
It
is-
looks like there's
it
some
is,
parking there and can you also, looks like there's parking along California Street?
Not in the public right of way, no. The parking will be entered into the project on site, 10 parking spaces provided.
I'm sorry. Is there street parking in that little Nutmeg cul-de-sac?
As is, it's currently built out beyond its so we are going to clear the unpermitted work that's built out and remove the fencing that is also associated, that has been put up with the existing use that's been there for like 70 years. So potentially, yes, we are negotiating that with staff. There are, as I said, some right-of-way improvements that will be requested of us to help bring this area up to code. So we are working through those right now. I am not completely sure about if parking will be allowed in that. I'm sure it's possible people will use it for parking if it's available there. I'm not sure what that will look like.
That's fair.
Yeah, you answered some of the questions I was, kind of mulling over, because what it looks like now and the diagram wasn't clear. So that answers a lot of questions. What's actually what is that building being used for?
Its existence, to our knowledge, has always been like a wood furniture shop and associated spray painting of
Okay. Is it being used now or they're not?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And if this gets approved and everything, when would you anticipate the shop, taking it over, opening and launching?
Well, that's a great question. We still have to go in for like building and construction permits, since this is just the discretionary permit
Right.
for the conditional use. So potentially, 12 to 16 months.
Right. So we're looking maybe a year and a half or so out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, that ties back into DK's point on litigation and if this will move forward.
Yeah. Are those solar panels on there on the exterior that I saw?
We don't have those. We are currently talking about that, though. We are currently considering adding those.
I'm just curious, if there's an opportunity they didn't really look like solar panels, but it got me thinking, maybe you could, I don't know if it would work because of the curvature, but.
They make them curve. We've looked into this, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know engineers are very creative and I wondered, so there are curvatures. That would be cool if you could do that, but.
Absolutely, yes. And it could add a little flair to the existing building, and
Well, it would
that
be
area is
awesome.
Yes.
Cost effective, yeah.
Would there be any value, Kim, in a motion from this body that emphasizes those solar panels? Does that get factored into your process at all? If we said we'd approve this conditional upon you pursuing said solar installation?
I don't know. We're not seeking that today. I know that, should we want solar panels, the city cannot, oppose us adding solar to this project. They can't oppose it adding to any project.
Mm-hmm.
So-
What if we only supported it conditionally if you did? install
At
solar?
this time, we can't, we're still seeking our options. So we don't know how we're going to treat the building facade. We're still in the conceptual phases, so we would appreciate without the contingency, but we absolutely agree that we, prefer to use the existing building. It's a very cool building that we could work with, and we have been looking at the solar panels. We do not want, to burden our project with the contingency if if that's something that may not work out in the future, but I can absolutely say we're discussing it. We've been discussing it this week.
I don't think
Right.
you want to burden your
No.
approval with solar. If you can do it, I'm sure it won't be a problem, if it matches all of the codes and the regulations and everything, but it is an interesting use of that, kind of an eyesore right now. So that would be nice. Yeah, looks good.
Okay. So specifically, you're here requesting this body's support for a conditional use permit application?
Yes, exactly. We're requesting, a vote, and we would please appreciate you guys voting for us. If you would like Aaron to speak, the applicant, he is also here under the name of Laura, if you want to approve.
Is Aaron, you're here?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me, Dika?
I can, yeah, thank you.
Hi, board members. Aaron Magani, the project applicant. And I just wanted to speak on the solar panels. So we have it in with 2 different manufacturers currently, and we're trying to find somebody that can make architectural rounded solar panels. So there's companies out that make solar panels that are rounded, but we want good looking solar panels that are rounded. And it right now hasn't been the easiest thing to come by, but I can assure you I've already been looking at it. So I just want to let the board know that that is something I am absolutely trying to proceed forward with.
Well, yeah, no, I won't make that motion with the contingency. I'll make a motion to approve the requested conditional use permit as requested. I just would personally just register the fact that I am a fan of this solar installation wherever possible. So I just want to kind of put that out there. But no, I appreciate it. Motion made as is. Looking for a second at this point, unless anyone else has any questions.
I'll second it for you, DK.
Thank you, Karen. Any other discussion before we vote on this one?
DK, I might just throw in real quick. I mean, my only concern, again, kind of looking at this, not with a lot of time here, but is it's right next to those trolley tracks, and there's just a tiny little chain link fence going along there. Has the city said anything about, improving that fence or
That is all
protection?
Yeah, that is all owned by the railroad system and SANDAG, so
Even the
that
city, yeah.
is not, that is outside of our, and even the city's scope.
Yeah. So do you know who does have right of way? Is that like a BNSF?
The
line?
trolley,
MCS?
yeah. I don't know, but it's the trolley's corridor, so it's either.
Yeah, but those, yeah, okay. So if those are the trolley tracks, then I think that's the MTS right away. Okay. Were you going somewhere with that, Jason, or was that just an initial question?
I mean, that would be my only objection to putting some kind of heavy retail use like this right next to some busy train tracks with a tiny little fence anybody could jump over or drive over.
Yeah, that's fair consideration. Okay.
That's it.
Cool. No, thank you. Yeah, no, that's fine. At this point, though, we do have a motion, we do have a second, and so I'll call the roll. Judy?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Karen?
Yes.
Jason?
I'm gonna have to go nay on this.
Fair enough. Thank you. Rebecca? Rebecca Schumann? Maybe technical difficulties. We'll go to Amy real quick.
Yes, and I love the render.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. And Quentin?
I'll give it a yay.
Give it a yeah. Okay, Rebecca, we'll come back to you one more time. And hearing nothing, we'll mark her as an abstention, Jason.
Got it. I'm guessing you're a yay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, pardon me. I'm a yeah as well. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Who seconded that?
That was second from Karen.
Karen. Got it. Thanks, Karen.
And if you can read us that tally, Jason, I think it carries.
Yes, that is 5 in favor, 1 abstain, and 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay. So if Rebecca can jump back in at any point before we close out and register her vote, that'd be appreciated. Otherwise, we'll say thank you to Kimberly and to Aaron for joining us under the guise of Laura. and move on with our meeting.
I apologize. I'm on my wife's laptop at a conference.
All
Out of
good. No
town.
worries.
But I want to say thank you very much, board members. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you. And I think you've been here for a couple of our meetings now, so thanks for continuing to come back.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Moving on. So no CPC report for me this time. Unfortunately, I was absent last month from that event. I was doing actually a campaign event, really speaking at something. Chair report though, we kind of touched a little bit upon it in that informational item, but my chair report really is more about the future. It's not so much of anything that's happened, but really kind of trying to make some version of a statement of intent for what, like I said, we want to focus on in 2023. I would like for everyone who's a member of this board to come to that January meeting with some thoughts, some ideas. Like I said, I've circulated the bylaws, I've circulated a number of different pieces of resources. I have a few different ideas myself as for what I think we should be spending our time on. And so my chair report is simple. I appreciate all of you sort of entrusting me with this role in the first place, but I don't feel comfortable standing still and just waiting for things to happen around us, right? And so the extent that we can continue to have conversations with our neighbors in Point Loma and Ocean Beach, Mission Hills, I think Old Town as well makes a lot of sense. Like I said, we're going to see change over time in this community, but it's going to take some time, right? I think we still have a lot of momentum in a general negative direction. I don't think we're going to get worse before we get better, frankly. And so what I'm just trying to do is to accelerate that timeline and get us into this proactive, positive, kumbaya utopia that is envisioned in our community plan. So that's all I'll say for chair report for now. And moving on to, Judy, was that a question?
I thought just did come to mind as you were talking. And the fact that Gil Kennedy happens to be here today. We've never used or had any allocation approved for those BID funds that there's over $100,000 and it's probably a whole lot more. And we were about to lose them at one point. Gil and maybe Amy, I can't remember who else. There was an ad hoc committee to come up with some ideas. At the time, we were going to use those funds for to hire private security for certain areas in our community. And that got blown away because it didn't meet the rules for applying it, because the city would have to send out an RFP or something. I don't remember all the details, but
I remember.
I would like for somebody from the city, if somebody from the city, DK, could join us in January and tell us how much money's there, and help us, not just, give us, the rules or whatever. Help us use those funds before they get taken away. I hope they haven't been. I know I brought it up a few times over the past couple of years, but we're so busy and focused on the NAV war, we've had a lot on our plates, and none of us have very much time, anyway. So I would love it if we could get someone from the city who understands those funds, what we could do with them, and let's figure out a way to use them. I don't know how, because they didn't approve, the last thing, but I'd really like to see us, if those funds are still available, let's not let them just stagnate. Maybe we can use them for billboards. Maybe we can use them, in ways to get messages out, because we really need people to weigh in and voice, even if they don't agree with each of us or our board, we need the community input and participation, because otherwise it's always going to end up being just what the city wants it to be, which I'm not saying it's bad, but it may not meet the needs of this community and our vision. And they can change all the plan updates for every single community. They're subject to being amended. And they can be. We were told that very specifically when that was, there were certain elements of the plan update that, could not be completely, solidified. And the sports arena site, in fact, is one of those. There's actually 3 uses that can be done with that, if I remember correctly. And
No,
hopefully between now and January, I'll look again. But let's try to use those funds to help us maybe with messaging or something.
Anything. Yeah, no, I'll work towards that. I do recall this conversation comes up, I'd say.
I know, I'm the one brings it up.
Well, no, I mean, from what I understand, there's $150-something thousand out there.
Yeah, maybe closer with interest, who knows? It could be, closer to 200.
It's earmarked for Midway District specifically. I don't know where it derived from. I heard BID, a Business Improvement District. Maybe
It was a business improvement district that was set up many years ago, and then it went away. I don't know all the I don't remember the details, but I know Gil. I thought Amy was on that committee.
Chuck was the president of that. Chuck Preda, who's on our board now. So I'll circle up with him.
Okay.
We'll have that.
Yeah, it would be good. I think that would be a good thing to address in January, if possible, to kind of let's try to use those money while they're available and find out how. I might still have. I'll look in my file for it. I might still have a hard copy that was given to us of the rules of how that all gets allocated. Yeah, and what it can be used for. I don't remember specifically, but that's why we need someone to come and let's start fresh and let's address it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
It was for cleaning and security and taking care of like the median areas to put like cactus and things like that, so we didn't have people hanging out in them, making it a little less hospitable. And I thought we lost the money though, but I do remember Kathy going and fighting for it, but I don't remember. I thought we lost it.
Really?
Yeah, I'll look into it. We can speculate forever, but I'll look into that.
Yeah, I hope we have it.
I'll find out.
Yeah.
And we'll move that forward.
I forgot about the improvements in stuff that like the cactus and the
Okay. The only other new business that I had is something I tend to bring up fairly frequently. I'm hearing there's a gentleman named Gil who used to be on the board. My item is, like I said, relating to the vacancies that we still have. We've got 2 of them, and I don't want to put any undue amount of peer pressure on anyone. But I would very much like to solicit anyone who has time, energy, connections to this neighborhood. I think if you're still on this call at 4:48 p.m. as it's getting dark outside, clearly you care. And so if you have the ability, if you qualify to sit on this board by virtue of being a resident or a business operator or a property owner, we've got vacancies, and we'd love to see a full board. I think for the first time since I've been involved for the last 4.5 years almost, because like I said, we've got a lot of work to do. So I'll put it out there. No pressure to swear anyone in today, but if anyone is aware of someone who would be a good fit for this board, by all means, feel free to refer them to me. And with
can
that,
I post before we I'm going to just post some links for the Airport Noise Advisory Committee.
Yeah, I was just
Airport Noise Advisory Committee, ANAC, has been in existence for over 40 years now, and it's really for collaboration and, for lack of better way, it's really a place where different communities have representation. So we understand what's going on. Airplanes make a lot of noise and generate a lot of complaints, okay? And nobody's ever going to be happy unless we don't have an airport anymore, and that's not going to happen. But I'm going to post some links. If you're interested in learning more, I can give more information in another meeting on what the committee does. I'm going to post a link that's the general information. Also in there is a quieter home program that is funded by the FAA, and for property owners within the 65 decibel map of noise. You may, and I say you may, you're not always qualified, but you may be qualified for replacement windows, for insulation and doors. There's also a new portable monitor system. There's very strict regulations on who can have that and use it. And there's information I can share another time because we're running out of time, but also I'm including the link to, if you want to report noise, excessive noise, excessively low planes or loud planes, or outside of the parameters. San Diego is one of just a handful, and I don't remember, I think it's maybe 8 is the number I'm remembering, of one of only 8 airports in the United States that have a grandfathered in overnight curfew. So that between 11:30 and 6:30 a.m. is quiet time. But planes can land anytime because you can't tell a plane they can't land. You know, you've got passengers or emergency, whatever. And also there's exceptions for emergency services and transports and stuff like that. But in general, from 11:30 overnight to 6:30 in the morning, we have a grandfathered in overnight curfew. So when planes violate that, you can report that. Usually it's going to be a plane that's had to land. But there's significant fines that are lobbied on those carriers, beginning at $2,000 an incident. So they try not to violate them too often. It gets very expensive. But I'm going to post these links if you're interested in how to report, you know, excessive noise. There used to be a clicker available when I started doing this way back when I took over. Dawn Riley moved out, and so I took over her spot when that's how I got involved. And there was a clicker thing where you could just click at any time, right? Well, that violated some copyright infringement lawsuit. So we don't have that. It's a little bit of a hassle, honestly, but it's kind of cool. It speaks to your nerdy side. If you're like me and you want to, you know, speak to that nerdy side once in a while, if you go on, you can actually watch the airplanes in flight. They're live. And if you hear something excessively loud, you can see the flight number, where it is, and those sorts of things. It's a lot of extra effort, to be honest, but there's a way to do it on your cell phone, but it's still like, I think, 3 steps. So anyway, I'll post that there, and then, you know, maybe next time I can give more information if people have more questions, but, you know, just to let you know that information's out there.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Judah. I really appreciate the fact that it's unfortunate that it overlaps with our monthly meeting, but I appreciate the fact that you dedicate some time and tapping into those things on our behalf. So thank you.
Well, it's been really interesting, to tell you the truth. You know, when I took it, took over Dawn's position. It was like, you know, I mean, I understood a little of it, but it was a very steep, fast learning curve. But honestly, it's been, you know, it's informative, and it really does help to understand what, if anything, can mitigate noise. And we're in an interesting area, Midway, because some of our Midway property falls within the 65 decibel, and a lot of those planes, you know, raise above that on a regular basis. And so some of those properties have been eligible to get on a list, and it works through the list with the funding from FAA to get, you know, insulated windows and doors. You don't, you know, it isn't like they're going to come in and do a massive renovation of your property, but it does, apparently it does help. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, thank you. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other new business from the board of the public? Hearing none, we'll go to old business. I don't have any old business. I don't think we have any old business. Okay, hearing none, we'll go back to Rebecca one more time. Rebecca, I don't know if you're still with us, if you're online.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I think your mic might have gotten stuck when we were voting on the motion for the action item today.
Oh yeah, I'm in A. I'm fine with that.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Jason, can you reflect that in the minutes, please?
Done.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And with all that being said, at 4:55, unless anyone else has anything else, we'll go ahead and close this meeting. We'll adjourn this meeting. That's the proper technical term. Cool. I'll hit